Support for the Leadoff on WGLT and WGLT.org comes from the Central Illinois Regional Airport, where Florida beaches are one flight away. Featuring nonstop service on Allegiant Airlines to Tampa, St. Pete, and Orlando Sanford from Bloomington. Close, convenient, CIRA. More at CIRA.com.
A Bloomington agency is helping faith groups serve their members who are struggling with mental health and substance abuse disorders. That's one of the things you need to know to start your day for Monday, May 13th. I'm Ryan Denham, and this is WGLT's The Leadoff. Now let's lead off with a new program from Bloomington-based Chestnut Health Services that trains church congregations to better understand mental health and substance abuse issues by teaching some of the science. WGLT's Lindsay Jones has more.
The social service provider rolled out a new 4-course training program for congregations in January. Community health specialist Nolan Recker says the goal is to reach as many of Illinois' 11,000 plus congregations as possible.
So it's a really big project, something that has started 2 years ago with a few members of our team who went to a national conference and heard somebody from the state of Tennessee talking about this project that they started in their state in the year 2014. And in 10 years, they've done over 6,600 trainings.
The 4 trainings cover the science behind substance abuse disorder, how to recognize potential suicidality, Mental Health 101, and a 4th training goes over Narcan, a prescription medication that can be used to treat an opioid overdose. The initiative, formerly called the Illinois Faith and Recovery Collaborative, is part of Chestnut's Center for Community Engagement. Partly funded by a state opioid response grant, the center is aimed at bolstering community resources related to substance abuse recovery. Recker says they're targeting congregations on purpose.
There's been some research out there from Lifeway Research and Pew Research that have found a significant percentage of people, when encountering a mental health challenge or a mental health crisis or a substance use disorder, will turn to their faith community first.
The trainings are free of charge for any faith group in the state, and Recker says it's not mandatory to complete all 4. For The Leadoff, I'm Lindsay Jones.
Here's some of the stories we're following in the WGLT newsroom. The Bloomington City Council tonight will get their turn hearing about the McLean County Regional Planning Commission's new housing recovery plan. They'll also discuss next steps for the Downtown Streetscapes project. The owner of Republican-favoring websites is agreeing to remove sensitive information about Illinois voters from its platforms. That comes after Illinois Attorney General Kwame Raoul filed a lawsuit against the company. And the conference that ISU Athletics competes in is losing one of its schools. Missouri State has announced it's accepted an offer to join Conference USA starting in fall of 2025. That conference plays in the highest level of Division I football. You can find more on these stories at WGLT.org. In light of Mother's Day yesterday, WGLT's Lauren Warnicki spoke to Heartland Community College professor and poet Kathy Gilbert. She shared her experience of becoming a parent for the first time as her own mother was dying, an experience that she wrote down in a new collection out this fall.
The time in my life that I was writing them was full of transition and really hard things. And so the poems became a way to kind of express the myriad of thoughts that were looping around in my brain. It's been 3 days since I walked my mother around the halls of her care unit, held her hand, took a deep breath, and answered her. 3 days since she looked at me and had to ask who I was. 3 days since the woman who birthed me and held me and gave me a name couldn't recall our relation. 3 days since her look of sheer surprise at the idea of having a daughter at all. And I still haven't cried. Because I had to get home to make dinner. Because the laundry needed to be moved from washer to dryer to basket to washer again. Because I had to go to that meeting. And
I think they call it the squeeze, right? Where you're experiencing parenthood and kind of the pressures of parenthood and the pressures of aging parents at the same time.
Yeah. Also, on top of that, I find, at least in my experience with infants, and I had 2 at once, so oh my gosh, right? You spend so much time when they're infants, like in solitude with creatures that don't speak to you yet in any kind of verbal language. So I spent a lot of time with words that I thought they were thinking, right? I was supplying all of the words and all of the thoughts, and there was really kind of no one around all the time to bounce them off with. It was like prolific at that time because I just had so much in me that needed to come out, right? It was really that quiet, difficult, but like kind of sacred and divine, like infanthood time, that I wrote a lot of those poems about my children.
I think it's such a salient point about like you have these squishy little things and you're like, I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what you mean. I don't know what to do.
Right.
And so you used language in order to process that.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, your mother was progressively losing language and losing comprehension to the point that you can't be like, Mom, what do I do?
Right. My mother taught me in the basement bathroom. Cold water will release the stain. Hot water will set it. I picked up the underwear I'd been soaking, scrubbed soap into the blotchy red, rubbed the cloth together, and told myself I'd watch the calendar better next month. There in the basement, hidden away from my father and brothers, I felt a little disgust at the process of cleaning this mess, a little sick as I twisted and wrung out the dull panties. I'd wanted proof of my womanhood, without understanding that proof often comes with a cost. Now, after her fall, I cleaned bloodstains again. First from the linoleum at the bottom of the stairs. I spent then from my mother's many moments wondering and kind of wishing that I could ask my mother questions, or what would she have done, or trying to remember things about my own childhood. And that was really hard for me. And I knew that was going to happen going in. My mother started developing dementia several years before I became pregnant. In fact, she was beginning to need so much help, I kind of wondered if it would be selfish of me to start my own family. I didn't know if that was something I would be able to take on. I was well aware that I was going to lose her and I was not going to have that person to go to. And I have a wonderful mother-in-law, right? It's just not the same. It's not your mother. It's not your comfort person, right?
So the second part was not just the decision to write it down, but the decision to then let the world see that, right, Yeah.
Is it scary? Is it hard? Absolutely. Sometimes, definitely. But for this in particular, this collection that really touches on motherhood and grief and cycles of life and all of those things, so many people go through these types of things, but very quietly. And as a society, we're kind of losing that village component of raising a family. I think I wanted to let these poems out there to help other people feel like there is a village, right? And there are other people that are experiencing the same thing.
That's Heartland Community College professor and poet Kathy Gilbert, speaking with WGLT's Lauren Warnicki. And before we let you go, the McLean County Board's Executive Committee meets today at 4 at the Government Center. On the agenda is a new program to help property owners finance energy efficiency and renewable energy projects. That's it for today. I'm Ryan Denham. You can subscribe to The Leadoff on the NPR app or wherever you get your podcasts.